Hello, my name is Gabriel Nadales. I am the National Director of Our America, and we're here with Stefanie Zaenker, who is the Strategic Director for the LIBRE initiative. We want to hear a little bit more about her story. So, Stefanie, tell me, you told me that you were born in Charlottesville, Virginia. You grew up here for about how many years?
So I was actually born in Southern Florida, but
Southern Florida.
I
Got it.
grew up primarily in Charlottesville, Virginia. And so I was in Charlottesville from about age 6 until I went to college at 18.
So, what did you study in college?
So I actually studied environmental science and sociology. I double majored in environmental science and policy and sociology.
That's really interesting. Those two are definitely two places. Why did you pick these two?
Well, I wasn't so sure exactly what I wanted to do going into college, and I think a select few people are pretty sure what they want to do going in, and I envy those people. I was always really interested in nature and the environment, and I took a criminology course, which was in the sociology department, and I loved that course. I loved the professor, and I chose sociology because of that. I have a little bit of an interesting story based on what I learned about the college system, the university system in
Yeah,
general.
well, tell me.
I was a progressive going into college. I wanted to change the world. I was green, and so I really thought of myself as a liberal Democrat. And then as I went through the college system, I sort of became aware that my professors, especially during my senior capstone thesis writing project, I realized that they sort of were telling me what I could and couldn't say in my papers and weren't really letting me give my own ideas. And that, I was young at the time and I hadn't really been exposed to all of these like cultural ideas and social critique ideas and control of language that we see that's so pervasive these days. But it really gave me pause and it really led me to think like, why aren't they letting me sort of showcase like my ideas and my way of thinking? And after I graduated and as I moved to DC and I was working through the professional world, working in nonprofits, my way of thinking just sort of shifted and I started to become a little bit more conservative. So the college and my major definitely had a lot to do with that, I would say.
Sorry, a couple questions on that because I majored in sociology and social justice myself, so I get where you're coming from. It's definitely pretty bad on that front, but I'm very curious about that. Did you go working into the nonprofit in more of the left wing space, or did you start off into just general?
So yeah, my first job right out of college was actually an internship in DC. It was a paid internship for an environmental nonprofit organization called Oceana. And so that's sort of what I focused on, environmental NGOs, for the couple of years after I graduated. And I found myself doing PR and communications. And I moved through a few different environmental NGOs after college before I decided to focus on music.
What kind of music?
So for the last 18 years, I've been a touring heavy metal drummer. And so
Oh, fantastic.
I joined a band in college, just kind of as a hobby, thinking it would just be a fun thing to do. I had played drums in marching band in like middle school and high school, and I wanted to be a rock drummer. And so I joined this band in college, not knowing what it would turn into. And it turned into a very serious passion and endeavor. And we ended up touring all over North America for 18 years.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah. So I was doing that while I was working with these NGOs. And then just a little life shift happened and I was given a choice, basically. Do I pursue this environmental NGO career path, which I was sort of falling out of ideologically a little bit. I was getting a little bit disillusioned with just the political nature of the work and how it didn't necessarily align with my worldview anymore. So I was given the choice between continuing on that path or choosing to pursue a musical career full time, and I chose the latter. And it didn't work out, but it was quite a journey.
I play the guitar. I play drums, but not well. I play crust, and I play with a couple of melodic crust bands, which tend to be very similar to like metal bands. So
So I would say, yeah, that's awesome, by the way. I would say, so I say heavy metal because a lot of people think of my old band as a metal band. Like people that aren't familiar with super heavy music think like, oh, it's loud and it's distortion and it's
Mhm.
traditional rock music instrumentation, so it must be metal. It's really more like progressive, psychedelic, stoner metal. Yeah,
Okay,
something
well, I'm familiar with some psychedelic as well as some. To me, it sounds like noise pop. Are you
progressive heavy rock slash metal as a catch-all. We can call it that.
okay? Sure. No, I'm very familiar with a lot of these scenes. I played different shows, but I never toured nationwide or anything like that. I almost played the House of Blues over in Hollywood when
Cool.
my lead guitarist, the night before we were supposed to play or the week before we were supposed to play, oh gosh, some stuff that I different life. But he got drunk and he started a mosh pit in a place where you shouldn't start a mosh pit, and we all got kicked out. So we didn't play the House of Blues.
Oh, oh wow. Oh no.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. Different life. But
That's like rock and roll lifestyle, exactly. Different life, you know?
so now I'm very curious. Do you think that when you were kind of more on the left side, do you think that it was more like kind of like a cultural thing? Do you think it was ideological? Because one of the things that I know from a lot of us, both of us being kind of part of the music movement, there used to be not so much anymore, but this big kind of overlap between politics and heavy loud music. Do you think that that played a role into kind of like you? And do you think that maybe some of your friends maybe are they no longer your friends because of what you're doing now?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's interesting that you bring that up because I would say the heavy metal underground scene that I found myself in skews very, very heavily to the left. And one of the reasons I joined music and continue to pursue music was because it was just that. It's the great unifier. And I really don't think there's much room for politics in the space of music, and so I sort of sought it as an escape from that. But I mean, since I'd say the mid 2010s and on, that musical space, especially the metal underground, has become increasingly politicized. And I found myself among, I'd say about 95 to 97% left, very liberal Democrats in that space. And I was concurrently developing sort of a worldview that was rooted in conservative values that I had for a long time, but that during those college years, I don't know. I was captured by the left and by progressivism. But so that actually became a point of contention between some of my bandmates, the scene, and me, because I felt like I had to remain silent and I couldn't really say what I wanted to say. We couldn't really write the lyrics that we wanted to write. So it was difficult, and I felt like I had to remain silent to a certain degree, for sure.
No, I definitely get that. I will not disagreement per se, but because I also believe that music can be a very great unifier. But it is a little bit interesting to see your perspectives on that because for me, music has always been political. I come from an anarcho-punk like punk movement. That's kind of how I got involved in politics, like way back then. Actually, I got involved in politics before then, but the music that I played was very much political, and I enjoyed that part of that. But it's I definitely see how this kind of music can be more divisive than unifying, and that can be a problem. But I'm very curious. You said that you had some values even when you were in college, and even when you were part of this psychedelic stoner band, that were more conservative. What are those values? I'm very curious about that.
So yeah, I mean, I grew up with a Hispanic mother and a German father, and I grew up very deeply embedded in the Latino community of Charlottesville, Virginia, and I was raised Catholic, and so I had some socially conservative values that were instilled in me by my mother, who was an immigrant who came over and became a citizen and had a long and fulfilling career as a scientist and lived her American dream, and so I always looked up to her. And she kind of had she just instilled in me these values of hard work, of faith, family, and just the idea that if you work really hard, you can achieve whatever you want, just like she did. And so that's the really positive model that I had from a very young age. And so those were values that were instilled in me as a child. And those, I think the value is sort of the bottom of the triangle, right? If you have these values, then everything else, those values shape your worldview and your beliefs moving forward.
So you mentioned the American dream. What does that American dream mean to you?
Just the ability to be able to pursue your passion and get ahead and be successful if you work really hard. The ability to use your gifts and talents to benefit those around you, your immediate family, your community, and society at large. Essentially being able to come here with nothing and become a millionaire if you work really hard and if you have good ideas that are valued by the market.
Okay, so now what do you do now?
So I am the strategic director of the LIBRE initiative here in Georgia, and we're a nonpartisan nonprofit organization that seeks to empower the Latino community so that they can achieve their American dream and be prosperous. So we give them the tools to be able to connect with their community and connect with their state government.
Okay, what are some of the issues that you really care about? You mentioned the American dream, but I mean, the American dream is a catch-all for all that is great in America. What are some of the values that you really promote? You mentioned a couple of things like the market, the free market. What are some things?
I mean, one of the things that I just see as the biggest problem in society today is the stifle of free speech, and I just think that the left has sort of had this approach of controlling language and making people afraid to say what they really think. And I just think as a society and as a culture, you can't really flourish if certain people are afraid of standing up for what they believe in, or even simply expressing an opinion that they have. And so that's one of the things that I really want to fight for, is freedom of speech, free thought, being able to introduce your ideas and having a free marketplace of ideas so that competition can stimulate the best from people and just create a society that will flourish and prosper based off the ideas of free thought.
That sounds great. I mean, I'm definitely a free speech activist. I've been a free speech activist for well over 10 years, and it's a battle that unfortunately never ends. But we're going there now. Is there anything else that you wanted to add? Anything that it's something that you really feel like is important for you to share with us?
I mean, we've talked about a lot. I don't know if my background is very non-traditional. I get a lot of questions about the heavy metal drumming and the music.
No, I mean, it's exciting. I want to talk to you more about that, definitely.
And how I found myself in politics. But yeah, I mean, one of the main things that I just want to get across is, like, if you are frustrated, like, one of the reasons that I ended up in politics was because I was serendipitously given an opportunity to work on a colleague's Republican congressional campaign. But it's because I had found myself in this space where the music industry that I was in was just dominated by people who wanted to stifle free speech, people who, shamed me for asking questions or voicing my beliefs. And I just grew increasingly frustrated by that. And I just felt like I was put in a box, like I just felt trapped. And then I was given this opportunity to work on this campaign. And I just was so energized and enthused by that, because all of a sudden I wasn't sitting around griping about what I thought was wrong with society or culture at large, but I was actually given a platform and given the opportunity to do something about it. And so that's sort of how I found myself in politics. And then I was able to channel that into a full-time career where I'm at now with the LIBRE initiative. And it's amazing to be able to stand up for what I actually believe in and sort of like come out of the closet that I was hiding in, so to speak.
No, that is exciting. So you made me think of something right now. When it was that, do you think that it was like a little like switch that you realized, I don't believe in any of these leftist ideas. I don't really believe in what the heavy metal like community or underground heavy metal, or do you think it was more of a natural progression of your finding yourself, who you were as a person?
I absolutely think it was a natural progression. Like I said, rooted in those conservative values that were instilled in me by my mom. And I think the left has a way of really appealing to young people. And I was sort of caught up in all of that sort of progressive, utopian almost spirit in college. But then as I grew older, I traveled, I started talking to people from all walks of life, all different political persuasions, all different races, all different ages and economic levels. through the touring primarily, it just shaped my worldview. And so, yeah, I'd say through the travel, through my life experience, through living in a very, very poorly run Democrat city like Washington, D.C. for 10 years, seeing the deleterious consequences of the policies there. And just through my own value system, I slowly started becoming more and more conservative. And so I wouldn't say that I'm dyed-in-the-wool Republican. Like, to me, it's not about politics. It's about values and worldview that are shaped by your experiences.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, one of the values that we believe in at our America is the idea that we are not Republicans or Democrats. We are Americans first. And that is a value that we're trying to promote to many, many audiences. So, yeah. Well, I mean, it was a pleasure to talk to you about your story. And again, if people want to get in touch with you, or, they want to follow you, or, learn more about the LIBRE Initiative, how can they do that?
So they can go to the libreinitiative.com, and we have a Libre Initiative Georgia page. And then just the Libre Initiative has Facebook, Instagram, X. Just Google it and you'll find us everywhere.
Fantastic. Sounds good. All right. Well, it was a pleasure to talk to you. And yeah, thanks.
Well,
I hope
thank
you have a good
very
one.
much, Gabriel.
Bye.
Bye.